everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Rustbelt Collector here, and I cannot believe that we are already reviewing the last two of these Battlefront 2 ARC Troopers, making a total of 6 ARC Troopers that Hasbro has given us in the last couple of years on this new mold. You could almost do like an entire every clone ever for this lineup of clone troopers, and it's barely been 2 years. I love that Hasbro is getting as much use as possible out of this new mold. It's an amazing mold. Again, it's one of those representations of what the vintage collection can be when it is performing at its peak, and I'm really stoked to get into these last two troopers. To start things off, I thought it'd just be fun to show all 6 of these troopers lined up next to each other. We have the Lambent Seeker, we have Echo, we have just the standard ARC Trooper, we have Jesse, we have the Umbra Operative, which I think in the last video I accidentally called an Umbara Operative. It is not. It's the Umbra Operative. It has nothing to do with Umbara or the Umbara Arc in the Clone Wars. And then we have 5s. All of these are amazing figures, but I will say right up front that my favorite 2 are sitting pretty right in the middle. The default ARC Trooper and Jesse. Those 2 are my absolute favorite ARC Troopers, bar none. If Hot Toys decide to release a standard Battlefront 2 ARC Trooper, I would jump on that in a heartbeat. But with all of that being said, let's jump into the last 2 figures out of this 3-figure lineup. So today we are going to be taking a look at the Lambent Seeker and the default ARC Trooper. This one being a Big Bad Toy Store exclusive, and this one just being one that you could get from pretty much any online retailer. So starting things off, just talking about the card art here, this is a really impressive lineup from Hasbro. Apart from maybe the recent 2003 Clone Wars Vintage Collection wave, this is the most cohesive we've seen card art across figures in a long time. These will look amazing, absolutely amazing, carded on a shelf together or on a wall, however you display carded figures. I did get a set of these to keep carded just because of that. Like, they look absolutely stunning. But yeah, this is just a really cool lineup. I really hope that they do more of these Battlefront 2 characters because they're such easy repaints. You know, they've already got the good clone mold. They can just keep cranking these out all day long. If I had to say one thing about these that was maybe a small gripe, it would just be that I wish they chose a different planet for one of these 2, because this is Naboo, this is Kamino, and this is also Kamino. So it would be cool if on one of these 2 we got Kashyyyk or Fallujah or something else, some other one besides Kamino, just so that each would have a different planet. But that's a really minor gripe. Apart from that, I love these. I also love that each of these card backs has a coordinating color with the armor pattern. So the Umbra has the yellow, the Lambent has the lime green, and the default has that kind of rusty red color. It is such a nice detail, and it makes these 3 look even more cohesive together. Now, I'm not going to do any kind of cool unboxing for these because when I got these in the mail, I immediately opened up the ones I was going to open up. These 2 figures really are awesome. While there's nothing really that new to talk about, they are just repaints of the ARC Trooper that we've gotten 6 times now. They're still good for what they are. That is still a solid mold with accurate sculpting, great paint applications, and honestly, it's just cool to get more love for Battlefront 2. That's such an underappreciated franchise, and I'm happy to see it here represented in figure form. So we're going to start by taking a closer look at the Lambent Seeker ARC Trooper. Now, I actually had to go to Google for this because I wasn't sure if Lambent was just a made-up word or if it was real, but it's real according to the Oxford Dictionary. So we get Lambent, an adjective, glowing, gleaming, or flickering with a soft radiance. To use it in a quote, the magical lambent light of the north. So yeah, okay, so it's a glowing, flickering Seeker ARC Trooper. I don't really understand the naming convention, at least with the Umbra Operative, that just meant like of dark color, and so I guess, you know, the Umbra Operative being more of a shadow trooper made sense, but this one I don't fully understand what they're going for here. It's definitely well, it's actually tied for my least favorite because this one and the Cobalt are my 2 least favorite ARC Trooper designs. They feel overly complicated for a clone trooper design. Clones have a certain simplicity when it comes to their designs. There's kind of a design philosophy when it comes to what actually is on their armor, or at least it seems to me that there is. And this one, along with the Cobalt one, just feel more like kind of like fan art almost. They feel like what I would see from like a fan artist rather than from official merchandise. But that's just me. If you like them, you know, no shame there whatsoever. They're just not my favorites. So taking a look at this trooper up close and personal, from an objective standpoint, it's honestly a pretty solid figure. The paint apps are really crisp. There's a lot of line work going on here, even under the arms here. You can see that going around to the back. The helmet has a lot of different patterns. There's just paint apps everywhere here, and I really do think they did an excellent job with it. The one element that I do like about the Lambent Seeker is this pattern kind of traced out on his helmet. It kind of reminds me of like Call of Duty Ghosts or Ghost from Modern Warfare 2. You know, it just has a really cool skull type look to it. I don't like the green trim running around it, but if that was missing, this would probably be one of my favorite helmets. It also feels like it sort of draws off of ARC Trooper Colt from the Clone Wars, you know, it kind of has a similar vibe with the gray and white. But I think that these paint apps kind of came at a cost, and that would be some missing paint apps. Mainly here on the straps that are crisscrossing on the cama are supposed to be painted black like they are here, but on the front they aren't, and I'm not totally sure why that is. It's also on my carded version, so it seems to be like a common thing. If I had to choose, I would say don't paint the ones in the back and paint the ones in the front, because this is the side that most people are looking at. Maybe it's a production error and maybe other people are getting those painted, but the two that I got did not, so that's kind of a bummer. Likewise, the holsters are left unpainted and they're just in that gray plastic the same as the cama. That's kind of a bummer, and if I had to guess, I'm wondering if that's a corner that they had to cut in order to afford some of the other paint apps across this figure. Be that as it may, it's still a solid figure. I mean, I'm not going to say no to another ARC Trooper. Even if the design isn't my favorite, I still have to have one in the collection, and it's still on an amazing mold. So yeah, even if I have some gripes with it, they're not really that significant. It's a Clone Trooper, ARC Trooper, and I'm happy. Of course, we can't forget that it has a removable helmet, showcasing that amazing new Tamora Morrison head sculpt that they've done. It is absolutely stunning. Like, this is the best head sculpt we will ever get. I'm really glad to see that they're doing a couple different versions with different hairstyles, because that would just be a nice variation to have in the collection. The helmets fit very loosely, but I'm not totally bothered by that. I wish maybe they were a little bit smaller for proportion's sake, but having them loose also means we're not going to have any paint scuffing going on there, which is kind of a relief in a lot of ways. And of course, the rangefinder can be flipped down so that he can target enemies at long distance. So let's talk articulation on this one figure, and then we won't talk about it on the other one. At the top, we have the double ball jointed head, so you can get that side to side. You can get forward, you can get back. With the helmet on, you can still get that same range, which is really impressive. I do like that a lot. For the shoulders, we have a hinge and swivel. You can swivel it forward to there before it gets impeded by the soft plastic pauldron. Back to there, you can get them out to 90. Single jointed elbows brings you into there. Hinge and swivel wrist all the way around, and then it's up and down on both hands, which I really appreciate. They also gave us 2 trigger hands because they thought ahead, unlike with the Black Series figure, and they gave us 2 hands that can accurately hold the DC-17 pistols. This armor may get annoying for some. It kind of floats around on there. In fact, you could actually just pop the head off and take that off entirely. For my modified Jesse figure, I know I actually just glued this in place just because it was just getting annoying always having to readjust and get it just right. But for the sake of showing off the torso articulation, I decided to take it off there. You can get some side to side, and then you can also get some back as well as some forward crunch. The hips are the old school style hinge and swivel with the thigh swivel, so it can be tricky to get them kind of, you know, in a position that you want and then shift that knee down. Unfortunately, also like with the Black Series figures, the knee pad is attached to the thigh, so that can make for some maybe awkward posing. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with this new mold. I would be very happy if they, you know, swapped out these legs, swapped out these arms, and made this like the new standard Clone Trooper mold, you know, just made it into a standard plain Clone Trooper, using this head and using a removable helmet. That would be phenomenal. This would be my ideal Clone Trooper, honestly. As you saw there, the knees are single jointed. They can bend down to there, and then at the foot, you can bend it to there, bend it to there, and it has a rocker that gets you the side to side. So all in all, this figure has really solid articulation. It's updated to what we would come to expect with modern vintage collection. The only thing I could really see being changed here would be adding ball joints at the hips instead of the hinge and swivel. That would be a huge improvement, especially if they use this mold for just a standard plain clone trooper. In fact, you can see here just how well those proportions look on the ARC Trooper compared to the skinny mold. It's night and day in terms of just overall proportions, overall sculpting, and yeah, this is far superior in my mind. So for accessories with these two, we get the standard DC-15 long rifle, as well as the standard DC-15 carbine. Additionally, the DC-15 carbine has that extended magazine on the side that allows you to peg it onto their backpack, which is a cool storage feature, just helps you keep all the accessories together that much more. And then each of them comes with two of these smaller DC-17 pistols. Now again, just like I mentioned with the Umbra operative, these DC-17s do not want to stay in the holsters very well. They fit in just fine, but then they are inclined to fall out just like that rather easily, and it does concern me that they could fall out just from a simple, being knocked over on the shelf or something, and then they'll be lost forever because they are quite small. And just in general, it's nice to get figures this heavily loaded with accessories because you get 4 weapons and a removable helmet. That's just really nice to me. I did also want to point out that the ARC Troopers actually have a slightly different head sculpt from the standard like Tamara Morrison that we're getting with the 501st Trooper, and possibly others. I know that this head sculpt is also used on Bad Batch Captain Rex, so we might see this one more frequently than this one. But looking at these side by side, this one is slightly larger than the ARC Trooper. Also, the expression is just slightly different. This one seems a little bit more grouchy or stern. This one seems a little bit more lighthearted. And then the biggest thing that I noticed was that the haircut is actually different. You can see how this is a little bit more slicked back, and this is a little bit more Clone Wars crew cut inspired. It kind of sticks out in the front there, this one being probably a little bit more realistic to the actual way that the hair would look, this one being a little bit more stylized. So that's interesting. I'm kind of curious to see if they will use these ARC Trooper heads on any further characters outside of ARC Troopers, but I guess time will tell. We'll just have to wait and see what they release when, and yeah, go from there. Now on to just what the card back calls an ARC Trooper. I don't know why this is considered just the default version of the ARC Trooper. I would kind of imagine that those would just be plain white, but this is what the game calls them. There's no special name for them. Honestly, in my mind, I kind of put this guy as maybe just a named unit, maybe an ARC Trooper assigned with like the 91st Reconnaissance Corps. There's a couple different headcanons I've worked out, but all in all, I don't consider this to be any sort of just default ARC Trooper. But as predicted, I instantly fell in love with this armor design the minute I had it in hand. It kind of is the color that I would almost call the color of this channel. It's, kind of a rusty red, and I think that fits very well with the theme of the Rust Belt Collector. So again, it's just one of those things that makes me like it even more. Though I may also just be showing favoritism because Captain Keeley is my favorite clone trooper, so, it's kind of in that same color realm. It's very close on the color spectrum, so, maybe that's it. But either way, I think that overall this is a better clone trooper design. It's much more simple. It's a lot of color blocking just in different panels. It's got simple stripes. But then the symbol here on the helmet is very iconic, but still at its core very simple. Like, I think that with the Lambent Seeker, there's just all these little hash marks and lines and outlines and stuff. Again, it feels very OC. It feels very fan art. This feels very much like something that I would expect to see in like Revenge of the Sith concept art or something. So between the color and just the patterning overall, this one really stands out to me as just a really awesome ARC Trooper. I can't see this being like a specialized unit. I could really see this only as an individual, so maybe come up with like a cool name for him or something, like Rust, ARC Trooper Rust. I don't know, that seems kind of cliche, but it might work. Maybe he'll be the new channel mascot. You never know. Part of me also wonders if, like, because of the color of this particular design, maybe that's why Big Bad Toy Store wanted it as their exclusive. But either way, that does mean that this is going to be the hardest to come by of the 3. Not exactly super hard to come by. I think it's still up for pre-order or maybe just like straight up ordering from their website. But because the other ones can be accessed from other websites and this one can only be accessed from Big Bad Toy Store, it definitely limits its reach. But yeah, that wraps up my review of these last two Battlefront 2 ARC Troopers. I am really thrilled that we got 3 of these. I hope that they go and do the Cobalt, at least at some point, just so we can have all 4 of them. Again, I'm really impressed with the mold on these figures as before. The paint apps on all 3 of these are exceptional, like really good. The visors line up with all the mold lines. The pinstriping and everything is really straight. It just looks so solid, and I'm blown away by them. Of course, I made it pretty clear that the default one here is my absolute favorite. My second favorite probably has to be the Umbra Operative. It looks so cool with the black and orange or black and yellow. It's a really sleek design, but still the simplicity of this one gets me every time. I highly recommend picking up at least some of these. If there's one of these that is your favorite, I would not hesitate to order it now because I think that they're going to be pretty popular, and these are also easy army builders because you know, you can make a team of these guys very easily. It'd be awesome to have a squad of the Umbra Operative, a squad of these guys, even though I think that that's a unique trooper. It's just easy to take any clone trooper and turn it into an army builder. It's kind of what they're meant to be. But that is where we are wrapping up this review. So as always, there's a link down in the description to my social media, my Instagram, all that good stuff if you want to follow me over there. And I'll also be sure to have the link to this Umbra Operative down there in case you want to check out that review. I reviewed him alongside his 6-inch Black Series counterpart, so that might be interesting to look at. But with all that said, thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, noon, or night, depending on when you're watching this video. And as always, I will be sure to catch you all in the next video.